So this is going to be a response to Professor Anton, who just posted a video called "Super Fantastical Expectations," and that was Professor Anton's response to the sort of antinatalist, self-described antinatalist cult. I think you could call them on YouTube. It's definitely a YouTube subculture, um, at the very least. And the basic position that Professor Anton's trying to push back against, in a really rhetorically wonderful way, I think. I'm on board, Corey, um, because what you're trying to respond to, is, well, it's civilization's death wish. It's the desire, um, to commit suicide as a result of a deep sense and a not entirely, absurd sense of the failure of the human project, the failure of the adventure of civilization. They want to give up on the whole thing, because there is so much suffering in the world, and because we, in fact, they would say, we know scientifically that everything is a sort of, um, predetermined playing out of, sort of the meaningless motion of matter through empty, homogeneous space. Um, the antinatalist says that, due to these basic facts about life, that it is meaningless. We should just all agree not to have children, not to continue, um, civilization, not to continue to give birth when, um, those who are birthed into the world will only suffer and die in an ultimately purposeless, dumb, stupid universe. A giant machine that was built by nobody for no reason, and that may as well not exist. And in fact, due to the moral clarity that we humans somehow came to possess, we are only, compassionate if we become antinatalist and realize that we can only, in creating new life and giving birth and having children, we can only prolong, the death trap. Now, I think when I look at the world, and I try to feel into the collective psyche of the planet, the human planet, um, to just stick to humans for a second. There's a whole other question of feeling into Gaian consciousness, to the consciousness of other species, and to the community of life, outside just the human. But if I'm to feel into the human social economic, situation on the planet right now, it leads me, into a sort of, um, hatred of humanity and a sense of great and continuing failure to pay attention and find important, those most existential, um, dimensions of reality. Uh, Love and freedom. These, for me, are essential to the human project, to the adventure of civilization. Love and freedom. Wisdom is important also. Science, right? Philosophy, knowledge. But love, freedom, and knowledge, I'll throw that in. They're not something that, our civilization takes very seriously anymore. Certainly, freedom, is something that the United States pretends, uh, to value. We value the individual, right? That is the sacred in our society, in our consumer capitalist democracy. Uh, TM. But what is freedom without love? What is the individual without the community? That's a problem that I think, the American collective, um, political scene has yet to fully contemplate, has yet to find a way to allow the individual and the community to exist in a mutually enhancing way. There's this deep conflict splitting the American collective psyche on the political level, that between the individual and the community, or between freedom and love. And I've learned a lot from Professor Anton, actually, on these questions of the individual's relationship to the community. And I wanted to read just a short passage here from Professor Anton's book, Sources of Significance. This is from Chapter 3, The Cosmological Grounds of Logos. Corey writes, many people in the modern Western world feel that they ought to be a self-cause. They believe in the obligation to think for themselves and to feel pressure to make something of themselves. They understand themselves reflexively and have assumed the authority, at least to some degree, for self-governance. How did it come to this? How were persons enabled to presume that as individuals, or even as individuals forming publics, they should own such responsibility? So how did we come to convince ourselves and to tell ourselves the story of individualism? How did we invent the individual as the sacred, as the center of meaning around which our everyday lives revolve? Corey goes on to talk about money as a symbol and as a social force. And I would want to throw my bags on board Corey's train. In his focus on the importance of learning as a way of life, as a response to consumer capitalism, the petty consumerist world in which we exist as money using late industrial American citizens.